Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mariah and this is Mariah's Moods. Welcome to the start of a new weekend reading vlog. I'm very excited for this weekend. I am excited to just sit down and read and forget about life for a little bit. It's just been a crazy week back at work and onboarding new students, getting back into the groove of teaching, balancing life at home. It's just been a lot. I need some escapism. So we're going to be reading a lot this weekend. I'm really excited for this weekend's TBR. Like I said, have just been super busy and I just need some escapism. When I feel like I need some escapism, I want to read fantasy, I want to read romance, and I want to just feel all of the things. And so that's the plan for this weekend. But I have been reading a lot of high fantasy lately and my brain needs a little bit of a break. So I want to read some things that aren't going to take so much brain power and more just fun experience, vibes, feelings, but not a lot of like heavy mental processing, if that makes any type of sense. So with that being said, I've decided this weekend that I'm going to be reading some fairy tales. It's been a while since I've read any type of like fairy tale-esque book, and I've got a couple on my current TBR and a couple on my shelves that I've been wanting to get to that definitely fit the vibe of fairy tales. So let's talk about the TBR for this weekend. So the first one I have is Almost There by Farah Roken. So this one is a twisted take on Princess and the Frog, the original Disney animated movie. And so we have Tiana, who is very independent, who has a dream of opening up her own restaurant, but she gets entangled with a prince who basically gets them cursed into frogs and they have to break the curse. Well, this story is going to be a twisted take on that, where Tiana was the one that made the deal with the Shadow Man and kind of the consequences of her deal with him. So I really like the Twisted Tale books. I like to think about how things would be different than what the movie portrayed or what the original story portrays. But what I really like about these is that there tends to be some type of overall theme that we can really learn from. This is middle grade. I would say typically they fall maybe higher middle grade, introductory to YA. So they tend to have a good moral story or something that the reader can take from and learn from, or some more commentary that maybe the movies don't really get into. So I'm excited to see this. I love Tiana. And I mean, obviously, fairy tale, Princess and the Frog, like, it's going to fit the vibes. The second book that I would like to get to this weekend is going to be Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This one is also a fantasy fairy tale-like story. We're following Evangeline, who is in love. She is sick. She is just love sick. But she finds out that the person that she loves is actually set to marry her stepsister. And she's like, wait a second. I think they're cursed, because there's no way that this man would marry my stepsister. There's no way that my stepsister would do this to me. So it has to be a curse. So she sets out to stop their wedding. So as she's seeking help, she runs into the Prince of Hearts, Jax, who is basically like a god, I guess. And she strikes up a deal with him. Immediately, she realizes that maybe this wasn't the best choice. And she kind of regrets her deal that she makes with Jax. And so I think we're following, again, the consequences of making deals with people that you probably shouldn't be making deals with. I'm really excited to get into this one. I know this is a beloved book. I believe it's YA fairy tale romantasy type vibes, so we'll see what comes of this one. That is the TBR for this weekend. Again, I don't know which order I want to read them. I'm really feeling like Tiana right now, so I feel like that might be my first read, but we shall see. It is currently Friday afternoon, so I do have some things I need to get done for work. So I think I'm going to get some work done, and then when it hits lunchtime, sit down with one of these books, and I will return back to you when I have some thoughts. Hey guys, welcome back. It is the next day. Happy Saturday. I got busy during the day yesterday, and then by the time evening time came around, honestly, I just wanted to sit and relax, and I sat down to read, and I completely forgot to update. But yesterday I decided to pick up Almost There. This is the Tiana Twisted Tales retelling, and I flew through this thing, and I made it to chapter 34, which is 299 pages. Now, take that with a grain of salt because this is middle grade, so like the text is really large and there's not much on the page, so it's not like I like speed read through this thing, but I am reading it very, very quickly, and I'm really, really enjoying this one. So this book starts off at the end of the movie of Princess and the Frog, kind of towards the end. So Tiana is still a frog. She's in the graveyard, and she's basically backed into the corner by Dr. Facilier, the Shadow Man. And so in the movie, it takes like a different course. She defeats him and they live happily ever after. But in the book, Dr. Facilier basically offers her a deal. Like, hey, I can give you everything that you've ever wished for. You just need to like make this deal with me, and my friends on the other side will help you. Like, tell me what you want. First, he offers her her dream of her restaurant, and she's like, no, like, I'm bad. I know I can do this on my own. I don't need your help. I know not to mess with the Shadow Man. Then he offers her something that she cannot resist. He offers the chance to have her father come back to life, still be alive, like he was never gone. And that for her is something that she can't turn down. So she makes the deal with Dr. Facilier to bring back her father, but she also says that he has to provide her the restaurant too. So she's going to have both of those things, but in return, she has to do a few things for Dr. Facilier. So first of all, she has to give up her relationship with Naveen. He will not remember her or their relationship, their interactions on the bayou, but then she also has to basically put this tonic into her food at the restaurant for Dr. Facilier, and she feels a little weird about that, but she decides to go ahead and make the deal, and she hopes that it's not actually going to harm anyone. So now we fast forward a year, and she has her restaurant, she has her father, she's very, very happy, but then some things start to go wrong, and New Orleans is kind of falling apart, and they're getting ready for Mardi Gras, and she realizes that the deal she made with Dr. Facilier is probably not the best choice, and there's going to be some big consequences to that. So I don't want to like spoil it. Everything I just said was in the synopsis, so that wasn't a spoil, but I'm really, really enjoying this. I love to see when our main characters make deals and realize, oh my gosh, this was not a good idea, despite like their own internal like struggle when they originally make the deal. It's like, well, you should have just listened to your gut, but you know, most people don't do that, including myself. So I really like that. But what I really like is that I feel like in some parts of this book, the author is addressing some of the things that I think Disney got wrong in the movie, especially when it comes to Tiana and the Princess and the Frog. So it's very, very lightly touched in the movie, a lot of the racial disparities that's happening at this time, because this is set in the 20s. In the movie, they're kind of like, we can't sell you this because, you know, a woman of your stature probably can't handle, you know, running your own restaurant. Like, we know on many levels what they're really saying. But in this book, I think that they're hitting it a little more head on. We see more of a relationship between Tiana and Lottie, her best friend, who is very wealthy, and she's white, so she doesn't have the same experience that Tiana has. But I think that the author does a really great job explaining through Tiana to Lottie, like, our lives are very different. There's a situation where they are approached by a sales clerk while they're shopping in a store, and the experience and the treatment of Lottie versus Tiana is very different. And Lottie's like, hey, no, we're gonna fight this, blah, 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 blah. And Tiana's like, Lottie, I can't do that. My life is different. Consequences of me fighting back is going to be much worse than you, a rich white woman, and you need to understand that. And I think that's really, really great that they're touching on that, because the movie did not really address it. They kind of just had that sidelong comment, and that was basically it. So I'm really enjoying that. Another thing that I'm really enjoying is just the culture that we're finding, like the New Orleans culture, the voodoo culture, I think that another thing that the author is correcting, in my opinion, that the movie should have done better was the representation of voodoo. So in the movie, the Shadow Man practices voodoo, but is seen as deviant and evil, and nothing good can come from it. But we have another character who also practices voodoo, similar to Mama Odie in the movie, but they make a very, again, clear point that not all voodoo is bad, and don't shame the culture that surrounds voodoo and the practice of voodoo just because one person manipulates it in a negative way. That does not impact the entire culture and people who participate in that practice. So I really think that's great, especially because our targeted audience is middle grade, or, you know, for me, maybe a little mature, or maybe a little younger YA, more mature middle grade. I think that's a great message, and it's very clear. It's not something that they are left to decipher with. I think the author is making very clear and concise points within the story, which I really, really enjoy. So the more I read this, the more I want to actually go back and watch Princess and the Frog. So I thought that it would be fun with my kids tonight to have a Princess and the Frog movie and dinner theme type deal. So I did this before when I read the Mulan Twisted Tale. We watched Mulan and ate some Chinese food and had candy sushi, and it was really, really fun. So I think I want to do the same thing tonight with Tiana. So I actually have to go ahead and start prepping for that then, because I really want to try and make Tiana's beignets that she has in the movie and is even referenced in the book, and I just love beignets. So I'm going to try that. Recently, my husband got me a new KitchenAid stand mixer, so I'm dying to use it. So I figured this would be the perfect first kind of project baking thing to do with my new stand mixer. So I am going to take a break on this and start making my dough so it can rise for a few hours before I actually make the beignets for dinner. So I'm going to hop on that, and I will let you know when I have actually finished this book. Hours since I checked in with you. It is now evening time. The kids really enjoyed the movie night. I made gumbo and beignets, and we watched Princess and the Frog and just enjoyed all of the Tiana. And so I thought it would be a good time to go ahead and let you know that I finished almost there, and I really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think for, like, I don't quite know how I want to rate it. I think for Goodreads, I'm going to give it a 4. But I think for me, I would go ahead and say like a 3.5 for adult readers, but definitely a 4 for like intended middle grade audience. I think if we look at this for plot, I think it's definitely a good like 3.5. It's a good solid book. I would recommend it, especially if you enjoy Princess and the Frog, but there's really not much to the overall plot of the story. But I think the commentary associated with this book is what boosts it for me. So I think for a middle grade reader, I would say a 4 out of 5. I think they would really enjoy the story, especially if they're, you know, especially if they are familiar with the Princess and the Frog story. And I think the commentary is very good and very just straightforward for that intended audience. But if you are an adult reader, the plot and the pacing is very much middle grade. Not a lot happens as far as like excitement and things like that go. So I would say like a 3.5. So I think I'm going to sit with that. But like I said before, I just really liked the commentary associated with the story. So like I said, I really enjoyed the overall social commentary. I like how the author was very straightforward with the topics and the themes that they were addressing in this story. I did like the ending. I think that it, you know, closed up all those loose ends in a really nice way. So I would recommend this, especially if you are a fan of Twisted Tales or Disney's animated movies. So I think the next book that I'm going to go ahead and pick up and read tonight is going to be Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is a fantasy fairy tale YA story. We're following Evangeline, who is head over heels in love, but she figures out that the love of her life is actually set to marry her stepsister. So she's convinced it has to be a curse. There's no way he would betray her. So she goes to seek help, and she finds the Prince of Hearts, which is also known as Jax, and she strikes up a deal like, hey, stop this wedding and just please help me. She doesn't know what she's actually gotten into until it's too late. So I'm really hoping for some like enemies to lovers in this book. I'm really excited to continue on with this like fairy tale like story. I know this is a very, very popular book, so I'm hoping I enjoy it. I've heard also that it's just kind of okay. It's been a minute since I've read a YA romance, like fantasy romance, so I'm hoping that I can still enjoy it. So I'm gonna go ahead and start that tonight, and hopefully I will remember to update you with my initial thoughts. But for now, I'm gonna get the kids in the bath, get cleaned up, getting ready for bedtime, and then I'll finally sit down and do some reading. Good morning. Will I ever remember to update in the evening? I don't know. I don't know if that's good. Maybe that's going to be a new goal for 2024, but here we are. It is the next day. It is Sunday, the last day of the weekend, and last night I picked up Once Upon a Broken Heart. This morning I sat down to do a little more reading. I made it to chapter 16, which is page 120, so pretty decent dent to start the day. My initial thoughts of the book. It's okay. I'm a little confused about our characters. So I feel like Evangeline, I might have skimmed over it. I don't really know her age. I'm going to hopefully say like 18 or not, but she could be younger. But she's basically been having this secret romance with a local young man. And it turns out this guy is set to marry her stepsister, and she's just utterly heartbroken. Her mother has passed away, her father has passed away, and she's basically living with her stepmother, so very Cinderella style. And the stepsister right now seems to just kind of go along with what the stepmother wants. Her stepmother is not the kindest woman. And so Evangeline is just destroyed at this point because it felt like the one person that she had is going to leave her yet again. So she decides to run to find help from one of the fates. So in this world, there's these fates that have different stories and therefore different abilities, but they can't necessarily be trusted. So gives off like Greek mythology vibes where they have these powers, they like to, get into human business, but it's not always for the benefit and usually not for the benefit of the human. But she's desperate. So she goes to find the Prince of Hearts. who's also known as Jax. And she's like, hey, listen, you are the one that is in charge of love and broken hearts, and just help me. And so he's reluctant at first, and he's like, hey, you know what? This guy is just like, why are you even worried about him? If he really loved you, he wouldn't be marrying your sister. And she's like, it's a curse. Like, you have to break it. Like, help me, do whatever. Just stop the wedding. I will do whatever you want. And so he's like, fine, I will stop the wedding. But in return, you have to kiss 3 people for me whenever I say, whoever I say. And she's like, excuse me? Like, what? Well, the rumor is that the Prince of Hearts, Jax, actually has a deadly kiss. So she's a little worried that he's going to make her kiss him, which then would kill her. And she's a little, I don't know, but she's desperate. So she makes a deal, and he stops the wedding. But not in a way that she thought was going to happen. So she basically has to undo that, and she has to kind of make a decision that's tough. And she does it, and I don't quite know if I should say, because I don't want to spoil it, but honestly, I feel like it's not going to be a big thing for the plot. But basically, her undoing the wedding results not only in, heartbreak for other people, but other larger scaled consequences. And so once that kind of resolves, she's approached by 2 princesses from her land who's like, hey, we need an ambassador, and you've become kind of famous as this hero because of what occurred by her decision making. So we need you to go up north and represent us for this special ball where this prince essentially has to choose a wife, and he dances with all these women and he chooses who he wants to marry. Again, Cinderella style. So she agrees, and she goes up there, and she decides to take her stepsister with her. And that's kind of where I'm at. She runs into Jax, and he's ready to start collecting on his side of the deal, and she's very apprehensive about it. But she really doesn't have any choice at this point, because I think if she doesn't fulfill the deal, he can kill her. I don't really know the stakes, and that's what I'm kind of at with this book. It doesn't seem like a lot is fleshed out and a lot is explained where I feel like it should be. The writing is not bad. It's cute writing, but it just feels very surface level, where I feel like there's a lot more that could be explained or needs to be explained in this story. But again, I'm pretty, early on, so some things might kind of wrap around and get more of an explanation. But I will say that I'm intrigued, and I would like to see where this goes. I'm wondering if we're going to have a romance bloom between Jax and Evangeline, because we keep getting these references that Jax's heart was broken, but there's a prophecy of he will find his true love, and he'll know it's his true love because his kiss won't kill her. And so I'm wondering if Evangeline is going to be that person. I don't know. So I'm going to continue reading on, but I do have a couple of things I need to get done today. I do need to run to the craft store. I'm working on a Valentine's Day sweater, and I ran out of yarn, so I need to go do that. And I think I might need to go pick up a green pepper for dinner, because I feel like I might have used it when I wasn't supposed to for the gumbo. I don't know. But I am going to sit down and do a little more reading, and before I run to the store, I will check back in with you to update you on further thoughts. Hey guys, welcome back. So it is several hours later. We're getting into evening time. I'm going to start prepping for dinner soon. But I have updates. So I think the last thing I checked in with you was that I was going to do some reading, and then I needed to run to the store to get yarn, and I did that. Now, did I get the yarn that I intended to buy? No, I did not. But it was for a good reason. So I'm basically making a granny square cardigan with hearts, different colored hearts for Valentine's Day, just to be extra, because I thought it would be fun. And so I'm making all these little granny squares with hearts in them, and I'm going to sew them together to make my cardigan. However, I ran out of this cream color that I've been working with, and so I went to the store to get more, because that was going to be the base of my sweater color, and they are out. Am I patient enough for them to restock? No, I am not. So I decided that I'm gonna just kind of change my plan. So I have pink hearts and I have red hearts, and I was gonna do purple hearts, just kind of like sporadically put them about, but I think I'm gonna stick to pink and red. And then I did have a bunch of like this darker brown yarn already, so I think I'm gonna kind of do like patchy color type. So the pink will have a cream color and the red will have this brown color, and hopefully between all of my scraps I can throw the sweater together, but we shall see. But I did end up getting yarn because I have no self-control. So while I was there, I thought, oh, let's be an overachiever and stress ourselves out once again with another project. I just got finished making a blanket that had me stressed. So, you know, what else am I going to do besides do it to myself again? So I bought a whole bunch of cream. It's not the same color cream, so I couldn't use it for my sweater. But I think I'm going to make my two younger daughters a Valentine's Day sweater, kind of similar to mine. I'm going to ask my oldest if she would want one. She's at that age where it's like very much like she has her own aesthetic and she can't match people, and my style is very different from her style. So before I commit to making her a Valentine's Day sweater, I'm going to ask if she'd want one first, or I might just make a different version for her. I don't know why I do this to myself. So I got a big skein, whatever you call it, to make for my little ones. But I also found this yarn, which I love these color combinations, and I think I want to make myself a sweater after Valentine's Day. Listen, I'm in Colorado. It does not get warm until maybe May, but you know, one year we got snow the weekend before Memorial Day. So it's going to be cold for a while. So I'm still in sweater mode, and I just saw this and I thought these would make such a cute sweater. So I went and bought 7 of them, and hopefully this is enough to make a sweater. I looked at one of my old patterns and it did call for, I guess, like 7 skeins worth of this yarn. I did the math. I was mathing, and hopefully this will be enough. We'll see, because I tend to have a loose tension, so I go through yarn a little faster than usual. So I don't know. I'm excited about this though, but I'm going to stay focused, and I'm going to finish Valentine's Day sweaters before I start the sweater. So I have to hide this for myself because I get overexcited. Tell me if you're like this. I know I'm not the only one. This is probably my ADHD. I get so much serotonin, dopamine from starting a new project, working on that project, and then eventually it wears off. And then I get excited again, and just my creativity is like reignited when I see something else and I want to get into that project. Then I end up with so many unfinished projects. Like, it's ridiculous. If I were to show you all of my yarn projects that are just not even halfway done, I'd be embarrassed. But anyway, I'm going to hide the new yarn from myself so that I'm not tempted to abandon Valentine's Day and do that. So that was what I did this afternoon. After that, I sat down to read, and I finished Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I think I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay. It was meh. It was meh. It was okay. Like, you know, like those silent book reviews, and there's like, that's kind of how I feel. Like, okay, that was cute. That was fun. No, not fun. That was cute. That was a moment. And I don't know. I think that a lot of people could enjoy this. I just don't think where I'm at right now, and like the other things that I've been reading, that this kind of hits that same level, I guess I should say. So I would give it a 3 out of 5 stars. I would recommend this. If you like YA, if you like YA fantasy, I think that this is a great book for you. If you are not overly invested in romance within the fantasy, I think this book is for you. I don't know. I don't even want to say that. I don't want to say that because I don't want to come off rude. I just have issues with this book. I don't care. There's a few things I just did not care for. First and foremost, I really did not care for our main character, Evangeline. And I think for me, that's like just like a big like red flag. That just deducts stars so quickly for me because I'm reading this from her perspective. I'm reading this to learn and follow Evangeline. And because I did not care for the character, it made the reading experience not as entertaining to me. But it was a quick read, so I don't feel like I was trudging through it. I just really didn't care for her as a character. Her decision making and the things that she did and the things that she believed were just so frustrating. They were so frustrating. And not in like in a good way, like not in a like this and it's an intended thing. I don't feel like some of her decisions were meant to be like, oh, Evangeline, why would you do that? Like it was literally like, that's dumb. That's so dumb. So I just didn't care for that. She just came off very immature and naive, which could be the fact that it is a YA book. So I don't want to be too harsh. But I've read YA books. I've read YA fantasy where the main character was a little sharper. And the decision making may not be the one that I would make. It still made sense. So I didn't care for that. I think that the plot twist or like the big reveal of one of the mysteries in this book, you could have seen from like 2 miles away. Like I called it almost from the beginning, like last time I checked in with you. So that was kind of just lackluster. But then it felt like in the end, like we get kind of like a little bit of like a shift, like maybe something's brewing, there's more happening than Evangeline realizes, like on the bigger scale. But I felt like it was just rushed so much at the end that it was like, okay, but like where is this coming from? Like it's not like one of those where like, oh my gosh, like oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, this makes sense. Like it's not connecting. It just kind of felt thrown in there, which I'm sure is probably setting up the next book and like the rest of the series, but it wasn't done like in a gradual way. Like it was just like we're here and then boop, like, but there was no connection. So it just felt very like rushed and just honestly not thought out very much. And that's just kind of how I feel about this book. There were several things that felt like they had such an emphasis on that were never really resolved or never really truly explained or kind of dove into. So that was a little frustrating for me, which I'm sure later on in the books, I would hope later on in the books that those questions are answered and those things are addressed on a deeper level. But for this, like it wasn't it for me. And then the final thing that I was really hoping to get out of this book, and one of the reasons why I wanted to read one of the reasons why I wanted to read it was because I thought we were going to have some enemies to lovers happening here. So this might be a spoiler, so I'll just put like a little spoiler banner up here. And so just prepare in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you're here, I'm assuming that you don't mind either being spoiled or you've read this. Can someone tell me, does something happen between Evangeline and Jax? Because I felt like in some instances there was tension, like we might be going somewhere. I think there was definitely desire on both parties, but like nothing happened. Nothing happened. I know this is why I was not expecting spice, but I thought maybe a conversation, a declaration of like just caring about each other. I feel like there was moments where they did things for one another that could be seen as I care for you, but it was never explicitly discussed. And so I kind of feel like when some people say this is enemies to lovers, like where? Maybe is it later on in the series? Is it in a different book, the second book? Because I was really hoping for some bad boy romance. Like Jack is not the best person being whatever we call him, fate. Like he is definitely morally gray, but it felt like there were so many instances where we are kind of led to believe that Evangeline could be his one true love. She could be the one that basically fixes his broken heart and changes not necessarily who he is, but some of just the clear depression that this man is going through. Like it just felt like she was it, and never once was it discussed. And honestly, at the end, we're kind of felt like, okay, he is terrible. Like, is he truly just a villain? And I don't like not knowing like where they stand. So that was a little lackluster and honestly just disappointing for me when it comes to this. So I think that this book could just be an introduction to this series. It could be that the next book and the third book are a little more developed, a little more fleshed out, and we get a little more depth. So this could be just like an introduction. I just feel like this is not the best introduction for the first book of a series that I've read, especially like YA. Not once did I feel like, oh my gosh, like I've got to know what happens next. I don't even know if I'm going to continue on with this series. We'll see. So I'm just going to give it a 3 out of 5 because I don't want you to walk away thinking that I think this is a terrible book and that you shouldn't read it, because I do think there's people out there that, I mean, clearly this is like a TikTok favorite, I'm pretty sure, or I've seen it a lot on different social media platforms. So people really do enjoy it. I just don't think it was my cup of tea. And I also may be that it's just, this isn't the time to read this book for me because I have been reading a lot of fantasy and a lot of high fantasy and a romantasy that I just feel like did a better job. So yeah, that's it. That's I'm just gonna end here because I don't want to come off mean, but that's my thoughts. That's how I feel. And I feel like we can have different opinions. And if you love this book, I love that for you. I really do. I want people to enjoy what they read. I just had an okay time with this one. So because it's evening time and I am not quite sure what I want to read, I think I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it now. Go ahead and end the vlog here. I did get 2 books done this weekend, which I was really excited about. I really enjoyed Almost There, the Tiana retelling, and I just got done rambling about this one. So I would call it an overall successful weekend. I hope you had fun kind of coming along with me, having Tiana night, reading and doing some shopping and just some random stuff this weekend. I hope you had a fun time. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, do all of the things. I hope you're having a wonderful time out there and that your day is full of good moods and good vibes, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!